So now that we're talking about the function main, we should start talking about the locality of variables. So let me put here locality of variables. And we can say a variable is local if it is created inside of a function. And a variable is global if it is created outside of a function definition. All right, and so let's go ahead and take a look at our power program here. We run the program, and it runs and ignores these lines here. Goes to 12 and 13, nothing there. Ignores line 14 and 15. Skips through 16 and 17 because there's nothing there. And then we have our function call on main. So the function call is going to cause the interpreter to go and jump to line 14. On line 14, it goes to line 15. 15, it's trying to print this expression here, but this expression needs to be evaluated first. So we need to run the function definition for power. So it's going to jump up to line 6. Base is going to be equal to 4. Exponent is going to be equal to 23. And then it's going to run through this for loop, iterating through the for loop, calculating the power of 4 to the 23, and saving the answer here in count. Then we're returning count. Return returns to where the function was originally called, and that is right here. And it replaces that with the answer, whatever that is. It's probably like some big number. Okay, and then it goes ahead and prints out that expression. So the return value of power is a number, so we do need to put str around it. And let me run that and see if it works. Yes, it does. And there's this big gigantic number which is equal to 4 to the 23. Okay. Now, instead of setting up the program like this, why don't we go ahead and set up the program where the user can enter in the base and the user can enter in the exponent. So let's say base is equal to input, enter the base, and we'll say exponent is equal to input, enter the exponent. All right, so now we're going to print out power, giving it the base and giving it the exponent. So now what we're doing is we're running power, but we're running it with the numbers that the user enters in on the keyboard. So if I go ahead and hit enter, I'm just going to say enter the base. I say 4, enter in the exponent 23, and it calculates the answer. Right? I could do it again and say 7 to the 3, and it calculates the answer. Okay, great. Now the question is about variable locality. Okay, is a variable local? Is a variable global? And what's the difference? So a variable is local if it is created inside of a function definition. So how do you create variables in Python? Well, we learned this, almost on day 1. And the way that you do it is you just say the name of the variable, have an equal sign, and you set it equal to its first value. Right? So we look for count and we say, hey, where was count created? Well, the first time it was mentioned was right here on line 7. So that's where he was created. And was he created inside of a function definition or outside of a function definition? Well, count was created inside of the function definition for power. So what we can say about count is we could say count is local to the power function. Or maybe we could say function power. Okay. And what does it mean to be local to the function power? Well, what it means is it only exists inside of this function definition power. It only exists inside of the body of the power function. Okay. Now here we can say base is local to main. So is exponent. Exponent is also local to main for the same reason that count is. Right? Base is first mentioned here in the main function. So right here on line 16 is where we are creating the base variable. Right here is where we're creating the exponent variable. So now that we know a little bit more about variable locality, the fact that we need to pass in the base and the exponent to the power function makes a little bit more sense. Because if we didn't have variable locality and base was able to be seen over here on power, then why do we need to pass in base and exponent to power? Right? Why couldn't we just come over here and talk about base and exponent over here? Right? So if you'll notice, now that I took away the arguments to the power function call, base is grayed out, and so is exponent is also grayed out. If I hover over, it says local variable base is not used. And it says here local variable exponent is not used. Right? And they're right, because look, in the definition for main, where base and exponent exists, where they can be used, they are not used. Right? There's no base and exponent being used right here. And because of that, Python, or at least PyCharm, this IDE that we're using, it lets you know, like, hey, you have this variable called base, you have this variable called exponent, but they're not being used, so they're purposeless for your program. So, hey, you might want to use them. Okay, that's what this is saying when it's grayed out. And now if you notice up here in the function definition for power, base and exponent are underlined red. So let's hover over that and see what that's about. It says here unresolved reference exponent. And that's kind of a coded message for saying exponent variable that you're trying to use right here on line 9, it does not exist. You never created an exponent variable before line 9 in the function definition power. That's why it's saying, hey, exponent doesn't exist. Same thing with base. It's saying you never created a base variable in the lines above line 10 in the definition for power. So there's no base and there's no exponent. Okay, so it's all about locality of variables. Base and exponent only exist here in the main function because that's where they were created. So because we want to, because we have to use the main function, right? Because that's the standard, everybody does it. Every Python program begins with def main and a call to main at the bottom of your file. And base and exponent are local to main. That's why we need to pass in base and exponent to the power function call. And so what this is doing is it's passing in the 4 that I entered here, and it's passing in the 23 that I entered here, right? It's passing the value that's inside of the variable base and exponent. And once it does that, then it's going to jump up to line 6, and it's going to receive the 4 in this variable here, base, and this variable here, exponent. And now I can use the the E and the B here. Okay, and so this is this system of being able to pass arguments into a function definition and being able to receive them as parameters is a way that we can get around the fact that variables are local. Okay, so base and exponent are local. And so the system is a little bit more complicated than that, meaning there's a little bit more reason why programmers chose to set up variable locality, right? Set up the fact that a variable is local if it was created inside of a function definition. But for now, I think that that's enough of an explanation. Maybe when we have a little bit more experience, I could talk about some of the other reasons why having variable locality and having local variables and global variables is a good idea. And so let me go ahead and stop the program there, and I'll talk about global variables in the next video.